during the debate, among 6 in total. It's going to run for 90 minutes without commercial breaks. The other 5 topics are American families, then race in America, fourthly, climate change, then national security, and finally, leadership. 15 minutes for each topic. Now, one thing that's different about this debate is that each candidate will be given 2 minutes to answer an initial question, uninterrupted, because the opposing candidate's microphone is going to be muted. So 4 minutes of the 15 mics will be muted for one of the candidates. So one of the candidates will be uninterrupted, and it's all hosted by NBC's Kristen Welker, who has already been criticised by the president. Now, we've got an expert panel once again to guide us through this debate. We've got the former White House staffer, Omarosa Manigault-Newman, with us. Michael Zinn, who was a spokesman for the campaign to re-elect Barack Obama in 2012, and Kelly Sadler, former special assistant to Donald Trump. And a very warm welcome to you all. We'll talk to you all in a moment or two, but at least one of the candidates is already in the building. Let's have a look. This was the scene just a few moments ago when the president's motorcade arrived. And it should be said that both men, we are hearing from their medical teams, have tested negative for coronavirus. Just tested today, both the president and the former vice president, Joe Biden, testing negative for coronavirus. Let's go to Greg Milam. He's there in Nashville, Tennessee, home of country music, the Grand Ole Opry and all that, and tonight's debate. So, Greg, what is at stake tonight?
Well, probably more for Donald Trump, actually. We know the opinion polls for a long time now have been showing him behind, certainly nationally, in double figures, actually, in some of those polls nationally, showing him behind in some of the key swing states that he won in 2016, needs to win this time, but is really struggling in some of those swing states. So he really needs a performance to change the story of this whole campaign, I think, tonight. You look back to those other debates, the first one, which was pretty shambolic. I don't think either candidate emerged with much credit from that one. He backed out of the second one when the organisers wanted to make it virtual. So this is his last chance, really, to change the story with 12 days to go. For Joe Biden, it's about answering that criticism from Donald Trump that he's fit to lead, to get the focus back on to the pandemic, which, of course, he's done. He did in the previous debate. His vice presidential running mate did that as well. They believe that's a real winning idea here. The question a lot of people have tonight is what will Donald Trump be like? We know his campaign has been pressuring him to take a softer tone, to try to reach out beyond his base to some of those people who don't like him being combative. The indications aren't good, I've got to say. It seems he's still going to focus on Hunter Biden, who's Joe Biden's son, questions about his business dealings. They've got one of his former business associates here tonight in the audience. So that looks like it will be a similar focus and a familiar theme for Donald Trump. And it's a risky one, and clearly his campaign have recognized that.
Now, Greg, we mentioned it's there in Nashville, Tennessee. Tennessee, of course, a solidly Republican state. Is there any reason why it has been chosen?
Well, universities all around the country bid for these debates, and some are lucky, some are unlucky. Tennessee had one back in, I think, 2008 when Barack Obama was running for the first time. It is a solidly red state. Donald Trump won here with 60% 4 years ago. He's running pretty solidly ahead of Joe Biden here, high 50% this time around. So it's not a place he's got to worry about, and it's a reminder of how much of this country is still solidly behind Donald Trump. It's a rural place. It only has 11 electoral college votes, so it's not going to be significant on the night. But one thing is significant here is you only have to look over the border to North Carolina, south to Georgia, and you see states where Donald Trump does have a more competitive race and tells us a little bit more about the picture around the country and how some of those states could be critical. And it appears he's not doing well in some of those states, and that could be the end of his presidency if he doesn't on November the 3rd.
OK, Greg, well, what a couple of hours we have ahead of us. So we'll let you go and concentrate on that debate in the hall. Greg Milam there, live for us in Nashville, Tennessee. Well, let's talk to my guests this evening, starting with our former White House staffer, Omarosa Manigault-Newman. Very good to see you all. Now, Omarosa, and for all of you, the question will come your way, but Omarosa first, just set out your stall on how big a role this debate could play. Of course, there will have only been two. How big a role could it play in the ultimate outcome of this election?
Tonight is really, really big for both candidates. But in the case of Donald Trump, he has to show America that he can actually be civil, that he can be presidential. But more importantly, he has to make his last case to the American people of why he should be elected to 4 more years. With him behind in the polls, I think the onus is on him, and he knows it. And so seeing if he can reel it in will be important. And I have to make this note. In our last time, I was actually with the president on his last debate when he was going up against Hillary Clinton, and we stressed to him, just don't make any mistakes. Don't try to make any big moves. Just play it cool. And that was the advice that we gave him. And he actually had a relatively even killed debate performance in his last debate against Hillary Clinton. Let's hope that he can deliver the same type of performance this evening. Otherwise, it's over for Donald Trump.
Okay, let's bring in Michael Zinn. Your thoughts on the stakes? How high are they?
They're incredibly high, and one thing that's very different than 2016, which was a very chaotic race. But Donald Trump had some semblance of a message. It was a very anti-establishment message. He wanted to drain the swamp, as we all know. Right now, there is no message. He's attacking reporters. He's attacking Joe Biden's son. He's denying coronavirus still to some extent. I mean, it makes no sense. He seems to be placating some extreme right-wing internet base that is not going to be persuaded and is already with him. So really, the stakes are very high for him to fundamentally change the dynamic and engage the electorate in a way that he's failed to thus far in recent months.
Kelly Sadler, do you agree with that analysis from the two other guests there, that all the pressure is on Donald Trump, first and foremost, because he's behind in the polls?
Yeah, no, I think that the President Trump has to have a good night tonight. He's got to come out. He's got to be strong. He's got to put forth his foreign policy achievements, which has been struck from the debate tonight by the debate commission, which is against him. But he's got to bring those up, because America's never been stronger. Our foreign policy's never been stronger. Iran's never been weaker. We've got peace in the Middle East between, Israel, UAE, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia is soon going to join those accords. So he's got to make this known. He's got to make his accomplishments known, his record known, and he should have a strong night tonight. He needs to have a strong night tonight.
Okay, well, we've already mentioned the previous debate, the first debate a few weeks back. Let's just remind ourselves of some of the scenes there. This is what happened when Donald Trump and Joe Biden went head-to-head in that first debate. It was 3 weeks ago. It was, of course, bad-tempered, scratchier. There were more interruptions than answers. Many people thought something the new rules are partially designed to prevent. Let's just remind ourselves.
Yeah. Vote now. Make sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question.
Why would you answer that
because
question?
The question is,
radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
Who's
on your list?
Right.
Gentlemen.
You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't schools open?
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000. And one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
who would you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left.
You're the worst president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
Let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe.
Well, that was 3 weeks ago. Will it be like that tonight? Well, the rule's partially designed to stop that kind of thing, but there is plenty of space available for more interruptions. So, Kelly Sadler, on that issue of tone and presentation, the phrase leopard can't change its spots comes to mind when we're talking about the president. We're told his advisors are saying, listen more, smile a bit. Is he going to be able to restrain his natural inclination to get involved and punch back at Joe Biden?
Well, no, he's going to punch back. I mean, he's a fighter. So if he gets a punch at him, he's going to throw it 10 times harder. I mean, that's just who the president is. However, you do have a different situation here where I think the president realized that you just need to give Joe Biden enough like rope to hang himself, right? Like if you let him talk, let him finish his sentence. He might not know where that sentence ends. Joe Biden might not. But you could trap him in his response and don't cut in and don't interfere. And I think with the mics being silent for each candidate to get 2 minutes uninterrupted will be a good style of debate tonight.
Michael Zinn, your take on that. This strategy we're told that Donald Trump's been advised about to let Joe Biden talk, as we heard from Kelly Sadler there, and he might take that rope and hang himself. We all remember not too very long ago where he forgot the presidential candidate in 2012, an election, of course, where he himself was on the ticket. He referred to Mitt Romney as that Mormon guy. He does have those lapses.
You know, Joe Biden has been phenomenally consistent throughout this primary. I think this is the 13th debate that he's debated this cycle. This is, of course, the second one of the general election, and then all these ones of the primary. I mean, President Trump, I mean, the bar is set so low for him. If he goes on stage, doesn't freak out and doesn't scream like a madman for 20 minutes, everyone's going to think that he's the winner. So the bar is set very, very low for him, and that is a tactical advantage. And I'm quite frankly not convinced that he'll be able to meet that low bar.
Omarosa, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, we're hearing that the American people are crying out during this pandemic for reassurance. They've had enough turmoil from the pandemic, perhaps had enough turmoil from the White House. Does Joe Biden perhaps answer that calling? And that's all he's got to do then, is appear reassuring?
Yes, and the difference between the two candidates can't be more, obvious. Joe Biden has shown empathy. He is concerned about what's happening in the country, particularly with the 212,000 people who have passed. Donald Trump never shows any concerns for those who have lost. And in fact, he continues to blame other people. And so tonight, we actually will be looking to see if Donald Trump shows any type of compassion, any consideration. The reason Kelly started talking about foreign policy issues is because they've squandered so much of the domestic policy issues in this country, including the economy, the fight about Obamacare, infrastructure, taxes. And I think that they're going to keep trying to shift the attention from those issues. But tonight, I will look to see if Donald Trump can stay on message.
Okay, well, as I say, all will be revealed in about 15 minutes' time. But let's just remind ourselves as well about the situation in the polls, how far behind the president is, particularly in some of the key states. Now, according to the average compiled by the pollsters, I'm going to take you through some of those states, if we can just have a look at them. This is by Real Clear Politics. The Democratic I've just got to read off my script. The Democratic candidate is 8 points ahead of Donald Trump in some of the key states. Let me just show you them. Battleground, a microcosm of America. There's the poll average. Joe Biden ahead there, 50.7 against 42.8 there against Donald Trump. That's overall, but of course, what really matters is in these battleground states. Perhaps foremost amongst them is Florida, the ultimate battleground, a microcosm of the United States. Now let's have a look at Florida. Donald Trump there behind. Remember, he won that by just about 1.2% 4 years ago, by about 100,000 votes over Hillary Clinton. Well, this time around, he's trailing Joe Biden by just over 3 points, almost within the margin of error. So that's clearly too close to call. One of the crucial states we'll be watching on the night. Pennsylvania, another absolutely critical state. The Democratic lead stretches to almost 5 points. And that was one of what the Democrats called the blue wall until it fell to Donald Trump in 2016, along with Michigan and Wisconsin. Now, Joe Biden needs to win back those northern former Democratic strongholds, the industrial states where the president's appeal to blue-collar workers did win people over, but by the narrowest of margins, less than 1% in those three states. Let's take a look at this, though. Now, this is quite extraordinary at the moment. Texas, neck and neck with both candidates on 49.5%. The Lone Star State has supported the Republicans in every election for the last 40 years, since Ronald Reagan in 1980, last voted Democrat in 1976 for Jimmy Carter. Amongst the reasons, a growing number of Hispanic voters have made the state a bit more competitive. But if it really is in play, then we are likely to see a new president. So, well, let's get back to our panelists with that in mind. And Omarosa, then, what are the issues that Donald Trump has to, I suppose, divert Joe Biden away from? He's going to be hammering home the issue of coronavirus. What are the president's stronger suits to hold on to some of those critical states?
Well, I think you'll have to talk about the economy. I mean, it is true that prior to COVID, there was a strong economy. But since we've been hit with this pandemic, we've seen across the world, but particularly in our country, that we've seen a decline. And so those are the only areas that he can talk very strongly about. He could probably talk about his criminal justice reform victories that he's had. But I think that once we start talking about his personal issues, you know, this secret bank account that he has in China, the revelation that he's only paid $750 in personal taxes. I mean, once you start talking about his personal issues, then he'll be kind of in hot water. So you'll see him shifting a lot away from those issues and trying to stay focused on some areas that he's had some policy victories in.
And Kelly Sadler, of course, the president is going to want to bring up, we know he's going to bring up this issue, he's been talking about it for quite a few days now, of Joe Biden's son, Hunter, and his business dealings. And we're told he's going to bring a former business associate of Hunter Biden to the debate.
Yeah. And, you know, he brought a bunch of mistresses of Bill Clinton to Hillary Clinton's debate. He didn't bring them up in the debate. He just brought them there to sit them there to unrattle Hillary Clinton. So I don't know how much he's going to press on this. However, there's been many news stories that have recently broke here in the United States about how Joe Biden was profiteering off of Hunter Biden's foreign business deals with China, with Ukraine, how he was the big guy that skimmed 10% off the top of all of those deals. And that's, you know, money laundering, that's profiteering off of your you know, vice presidential position. So that's a big deal that the DOJ and the FBI will certainly be looking into. And they've got Hunter Biden's computer. They now have validation that those emails were real based on the people on the email chain. And I wish the U.S. media would pursue this more. However, I don't know how much the president is going to bring this up in the debate. He's got the economy. He's got foreign policy. He's got criminal justice. He's got so many things that he can tout in this debate that are accomplishments, that are of credit to him. This is not about Hunter Biden. This is about Joe Biden and about corruption. And it needs to be exposed. And tonight, perhaps Christian Walker will expose it.
Well, what do you think, Michael Zinn? Do you think that the president will succeed in landing any blows about Joe Biden's son? And even if he does, do the electorate particularly care about this, or don't they care more about their jobs, their health?
I think they care about their jobs, they care about their health, and they care about why their kids can't go to school, why people can't go to their office, why no one can go, or a great many people can't go out to dinner, right? And I think one thing that's important to know is this election looks different than it has in previous years for a lot of different reasons. But the biggest one is people are voting earlier than ever before because people don't want to vote on election day. So already you have already 45 million people have already cast their ballots. That's done. That's more people than have voted early until election day in 2016. So there's a smaller and smaller playing field for Trump to pick up fewer and fewer voters to persuade because people are voting so early. When it comes to Joe Biden and his son, I don't think anyone's going to be lectured by the Trump campaign and President Trump, who has not released his tax returns. We know he has a Chinese bank account. We know he has business dealings in China. He won't release his taxes. Joe Biden has. He didn't make any money from any of these business ventures. you have Donald Trump's kids there who got these tax breaks and who got these
This is
no
insane.
who got these these
$1.5 billion from the CCP. Joe Biden took a 10% cut of this, and you're saying that the Trump kids have sort of enriched themselves from the Trump presidency. They were
But Kelly,
already
nobody is voting
yeah
for Hunter Biden. Kelly, no one is voting
yeah
for Hunter
I think we can
Biden.
all I think we,
No one is casting one ballot for Hunter Biden. No one's voting for Hunter.
I know
That's
they're
what the
voting
Trump
for Joe
campaign
Biden.
needs to learn.
They're
Can we talk about the economy? Can we talk about education? Can we talk about getting our kids back
I'm
to
going to
school?
mute some
Can we
mics here.
talk
I'm
about
going to mute a mic. Okay, this is an excellent debate, but Michelson, just finish off your point and let Kelly Sadler come back in. No, we have to unmute yours. So Michael, you were saying that people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones.
Well, I think especially people in this glass house, you have Ivanka Trump at the beginning of this administration, got a bunch of patents that were signed off by the Chinese government that had been held up for years. That was largely seen as a favor. It was essentially a bribe to Ivanka Trump, the daughter and White House advisor. And we still don't have Donald Trump's
quite an allegation. Okay, but let Kelly Sadler then come in uninterrupted back on that. And okay, there are allegations about each candidate's families, but what is for sure is that the president has seen many of his associates over the course of the last 4 years face prosecution, and some of them have gone to jail.
Oh, because the Steele dossier and the fake Mueller investigation, of which the media ran wild with, that was all debunked. I don't understand. Michael Flynn is still going to be probably let loose because of the FBI mishandled that, and they went to FISA court and they spied on the Trump campaign. This is also insane to me. Like, this is insane to me to talk about Ivanka's like business dealings in China when Hunter Biden got $1.5 billion from China and Joe Biden got a 10% cut. Like, this is apples to oranges, like crazy town.
Okay, we just saw the First Lady come into the hall there. That gives us a sense the debate is going to start fairly soon. 5 minutes to the starts, thereabouts. Depends how long the candidates take to come out on stage. But interestingly, well, perhaps not interestingly now, Melania herself, having suffered from coronavirus, clearly now recovered, wearing a mask, though. And Omarosa Maligan-Newman, that of course was a feature of that first debate, that some of the president's team, some of his family, were not wearing masks.
You know, in the middle of a pandemic where we've lost so many American lives, I think it's critically important that the president and his family set a good example. In my own family, we have seen people who have had to struggle to stay safe and to stay healthy in order to get their kids back to school and to get to work. And so I think all of us have to take this quite seriously. And it starts from the top. First of all, I'm happy to see that she's well enough to attend the debate. I know that she was under the weather, so it's good to see that she is actually feeling well enough to attend this debate. But we are in the middle of a crisis, and we can't ignore that. And so I think all of us have a personal responsibility to step up and do the basics. That's wear a mask.
And Omarosa, just staying with you on this issue of coronavirus and the sufferings amongst the first family, I'm talking, of course, about the president. It was extraordinary the way he has bounced back. He was taken to hospital, for goodness sake. Now he claims he's immune. He feels 20 years younger. How do you think that plays, particularly amongst the hundreds of thousands of families in the United States who have sadly lost loved ones?
Well, when I was working in the White House, I was a part of this executive medical program at Walter Reed. I was treated at that hospital, and certainly he has access to the absolute best care in the world. It is the top-rate hospital for this president. And so he got a treatment that none of us would probably be privy to. And I always say that if you're in a plane and you're flying at 30,000 feet, you root for the pilot. And in this case, it's Donald Trump. So yes, we want him to get well. We want them to treat him so that he's healthy. He is the pilot leading us right now during this time. And so I know Americans may be upset because they certainly are struggling to fill prescriptions and struggling to fill their gas tanks, but they also are struggling to stay healthy. And they are reminded that there's difference between the wealthy and the working class in this country, and they see that as evidence in the treatment that certain people get when they're confronted with this virus.
Yeah, Kelly Sadler, do you think it is an asset on that issue for the president, his own battle with COVID-19?
Yes, well, remdesivir, which he was treated with, the president has promised the American public if they get treated by COVID-19, if they get diagnosed with COVID-19, they will get that free of charge. So I don't know what Omarosa is talking about. It hasn't been FDA approved.
Monoclonal antibodies.
Will be
Monoclonal
approved,
antibodies
and
are
the
not
president will give
available.
that to the American public free of charge. He came out of it. So many Americans have had this. They've come out of it. The fact of the matter is, it's 98.6% of people who are diagnosed with this come out of this in a couple of weeks. And so it's something that we need to get through. We need to take our proper precautions, but it's something we cannot shut down the economy for. And that's something that Joe Biden is advocating for.
Yeah, Michael Zinn, what do you think about that? Are we going to hear that again from the president? I think he's also been talking about this Regeneron, this antibody treatment, as well as remdesivir. He's also promising that to the American public fairly soon, free of charge and widely available. That's going to be a tough promise to keep, isn't it, Michael Zinn?
I think it's going to be a tough promise to keep. I think, people see that Donald Trump thinks that he can play by a different set of rules than they do, right? No one pays $750 in taxes. You could be a minimum wage worker. Donald Trump's playing by a different set of rules than you. When people get sick, we want the president to have good health care. We don't have a hospital wing to get ushered to with treatments that are not approved and not available. That's what the president got. So I think people are more concerned about how their lives are being affected by this than necessarily that Trump has some sort of immunity now that he claims he has as a result of this. I think people are very concerned just about how their lives are and the lack of compassion that's coming from the White House right now and the lack of empathy.
Okay, well, the scene is set. The hour has arrived, but the candidates have not arrived onto that stage. Just do stay with us in case there is quite a delay. But let us talk our way into this debate. As I say, the scene is set. It's due to start right now. Both the candidates have tested negative, we are told today, for coronavirus. There is the moderator in position, NBC Network's Kristen Welker, who the president has already been strongly criticizing over the last few days on the issue of coronavirus in terms of the precautions that the candidates are taking. You may remember a couple of weeks ago at the vice presidential debate, there were two plexiglass screens separating the candidates. It was decided because of the negative test by both candidates before this debate that there was a large one earlier today, visible in the middle of the stage, that it could be removed on medical and scientific advice. So that's in terms of the precautions, no handshakes between the candidates, of course. Then on to the issues, as we've been discussing there with my guests. 6 issues in total. Let's talk you through the issues and the way it will be handled. 6 issues in total, starting with, yes, the thorny issue of COVID-19. That's followed up by the issue of American families, then race in America, climate change, national security, and leadership. You add that all up, there are 6 segments in total, 90 minutes allotted, uninterrupted by any commercial breaks. And within the 15 minutes for each topic, each candidate, now this is the big difference from that first debate, that rambunctious debate between the candidates. The first 4 minutes will be uninterrupted, 2 minutes to each candidate, and the other one's microphone will be turned off. But for the remaining 11 minutes during questioning and cross-questioning, both mics will be live. So plenty of opportunity then for each of the candidates to interrupt, perhaps contradict and cross-examine each other. The other topic that the presidential team wanted brought in, of course, was the issue of foreign policy, as we heard Kelly Sadler mentioning there, the triumphs that the White House says it has achieved during the 4 years of its presidency. But not officially a topic there, but we have seen just how adept candidates are in the vice presidential debate, even in parts of that original presidential debate, how adept they are at hammering home their points, perhaps in segments that we don't expect them to. For instance, we know that Donald Trump is going to raise this issue of Hunter Biden, the vice president's son, and his business dealings, his business associates, his business dealings in Ukraine, and did or didn't the vice president get involved? Did he attend any meetings? This all goes back to a laptop computer that's been discovered in the last week or so in a repair shop in Delaware. We know that Joe Biden is going to refute that. We expect him to refute that as part of a Russian disinformation campaign. Now we are going to hear the debate. The introduction is starting.